Tier list, 90 cheeky tier lists. Tier list, 90 cheeky tier lists. Hello everyone, my name's Christopher Nightingale, and I'm back again with another cheeky tier list. Now, some of you may know this already, but I am a huge James Bond fan. And this year marks the 60th anniversary of the James Bond film franchise, which is my favourite film franchise of all time. And so, I've got a few requests to do this. I'm going to do a tier list of all 25 James Bond films. So, let's go, shall we? We have 5 categories. I haven't got a not seen any category because I've seen them all several times. So, we have Classic Bond, the best of the best. We have Great, Good, Decent, and Bad Bond. Because I'm a fan of this film franchise does not make me think that they are all brilliant films. Because they're not. And here we are, we have all of them in chronological order. So let's start at the very beginning. Dr. No. Dr. No, I think, is a great Bond film. Actually, no, I'm going to put it as good. I'm going to put it as a good Bond film. I think there are great individual moments in Dr. No. It's the first film of the franchise. It sets the template. Sean Connery's great in it. I think certain scenes are absolutely timeless. His introduction, Bond, James Bond, with a cigarette and everything is just perfection. Ursula Andress coming out the sea is just iconic. And the whole sequence where he shoots Professor Dent in cold blood is just superbly acted. And the dinner scene he has with Dr. No is also superb. But in amongst that, it's quite slow. It's very detective-like in terms of film. I would say it's aged a little bit. And it's because of the slow pace that holds it back. There's none of the spectacular action of the later films, and it does. You can tell it's low budget. You can tell that even though it looks stylish, even though the locations are stunning, you can tell the budget is lacking. That would, the budget of the later films is lacking in this one because it's the first one. So I think whilst there's great moments in it, it's good. The next one is great. Really, really good film. From Russia with Love, takes everything from the first few films and raises it. First few films from the first film, Dr. No, and raises it. For me, this film, the defining thing about this film is Robert Shaw as Red Grant. Robert Shaw plays the best, in my opinion, the best Bond villain of all time. He is Bond's equal in every way, both physical and mental. He really has him cornered, really. He's his match, complete and match and you see almost it's building up his character. You see the origin of his character as well as Bond's. You see the start of his journey within the film. At the same time as you see Bond get hooked into the mission as well. And it's almost like they're on parallel with each other, and at one point they're going to meet. And the whole section on the Orient Express is absolutely magnificent. It's magnificent. That fight sequence that everyone talks about, the classic fight sequence between Robert Shaw and Sean Connery, is just superb. I think it is the classiest Bond film of the entire series. Where it falls down from being absolutely top tier for me is it takes a little while for the story to get going. Once it gets going, it's fantastic, but it takes a little while for the story to get going, and the end has a few action sequences that, whilst good, they're kind of... They're clunkily put together. It's like they couldn't have one big finale, so they whacked several action sequences together, and that made a finale, and that doesn't work quite as well as some of the later films. But the moments that are standout are classic. There's just a couple of little moments that put it down slightly for me. So, From Russia with Love, in great. Oh. It's got to be top tier. Goldfinger, the third James Bond film. The one that everyone says set the standard for Bond films in terms of the template that we now know as the Bond formula. Goldfinger is that, and it does everything right. I think it's the Bond formula at its most original and at its best. Even every moment in this film, there's so many memorable moments in this film. I can't even begin to list how many. You've got the car, you've got Pussy Galore, you've got Goldfinger, who is one of the best villains of the series, you've got one of the best henchmen in the series in Odd Job, you've got the classic gadgetry with the Aston Martin. The action is superb. The pre-credit sequence is the template for which all the future ones are judged. It has a fantastic fight at the end. The stakes are high. The plot actually makes sense and logical. You logically think, you know what, actually that's a really good villain's plot. The little moments scattered throughout where it was the film that actually, as a youngster, introduced me to golf and actually made golf cool for me. Was Goldfinger. I looked at Goldfinger and thought, that is a classy sport, I would like to play that, and it's because of Goldfinger that introduced me to golf, actually. There's so many brilliant moments in this film. And Connery is at his suavest, he's at his best, and it's the one where the other two films, the early two films, he's great, is Connery, but this one, he's great, and then you add in the mix of him actually looking like he is loving life. He looks like he's having a blast making this film, and it's infectious, and we love it along with him, and it's 2 hours, and it's an absolute blast. I highly recommend Goldfinger. For me, it could be number one. It could be my favourite, easily. It's a shame, then, that the follow-up, I think, is just decent. Thunderball has always been one that I've just thought is decent, but I've never thought it as being anything more than that. The problem with Thunderball is that the underwater sequences go on forever. I mean, they just go on forever, and it's stunning. It's shot beautifully. The Bahamas looks amazing. It's all in widescreen, and it's Technicolor, and it's like, wow, it looks like a comic book. But those underwater sequences are really slow. And they slow the film up massively. When it's on dry land, actually, Thunderball is great, but anything underwater slows it to a grinding halt, and you're just there like, oh god. And there's, obviously with the Connerys, as with some of the other films as well, there are dated elements, but I feel in this one there are dated elements that are actually like quite uncomfortable to watch. Even for me as a Bond fan, there are some moments in there where you think, oh, that's a little bit dodgy. Even for the 60s, that's dodgy, but now it's like, wow, she can't do stuff like that. Especially early on in the Shrublands, what he does with Molly Peters' character is just like, oh, wow, that is... could not do that today. And it's not even like a kind of, you can laugh at it because you can't do it today. It's a kind of, no, you really, really can't do that today. And stuff like that is peppered within Thunderball that I don't think's really in the earlier ones. I think Connery is, on the most part, good, but there are times in this one where you start to see that he is slightly phoning it in. like he slightly had enough of it. So that's why I've always thought that Goldfinger, there was a massive drop off for Thunderball. For me personally, there was a massive drop off for Thunderball. It's still some great moments in it. You know, the harpoon gun against the tree, he got the point, classic. That's probably the single best moment in Thunderball for me, actually. But everything else is so-so. This next one, for me, has always been a favourite. I think it's my second favourite Connery. Is this one? You Only Live Twice. Even though Connery does look bored out of his brain, I might shift that further up, you know. I'm going to put it as the top end of great for now. But You Only Live Twice, yeah, as I say, Connery does look bored out of his mind in this one. But even though he's phoning it in, the stuff around him is so brilliant that it kind of masks that. Unlike Thunderball, where the stuff around him wasn't really that good, this is just I always see this as the most exotic James Bond film. Japan, he stays in Japan throughout the entire film. Japan looks absolutely amazing in this film. The volcano layers are brilliant. Donald Pleasance is the best Blofeld. He is absolutely brilliant as Blofeld. He only gets about 10 minutes of screen time, but what he does with those 10 minutes is absolutely fantastic. He looks weird, he looks creepy. Someone else pointed this out, and I had to watch it again to actually realise this. He doesn't blink once. In the whole film, you watch him, he does not blink once. He stares at Bond the entire film, does not blink at all. That's an amazing piece of acting. I didn't even notice that, but it's like, yeah, that makes him almost like otherworldly creepy, like weird and just out there, and it's brilliant. Tiger Tanaka, fantastic ally, love him. The action sequences in this, considering it was the 60s, is brilliant. The Little Nelly helicopter fight is superbly shot. I mean, it's just brilliant. You know it's all practical. You know they actually did that. It's absolutely superb. And of course, the volcano layer is the best Bond set ever made. And it looks as stunning today as it did probably in 1967. It's just remarkable that they built that. It's like, wow. Okay. The next one, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Now, I think this is I would say just below You Only Live Twice for me, but still in the great. This is the most emotional. This is one of the most emotional James Bond films. George Lazenby's only one. That's where people knock it down. People knock it down because George Lazenby wasn't an actor. He got the James Bond gig. Somehow he got the James Bond gig. And considering he's not an actor, and not a trained actor, I actually think George Lazenby does a pretty damn good job. Like, he really does a fine job in this. Peter Hunt, as director, this is the only Bond film he directed, and it is a tremendous shame that he didn't do any more, because his direction is absolutely spot on in this. It is brilliant. The way he constructs this is one of the longest Bond films, and it doesn't feel like the longest Bond film. You are hooked from the start to the end, and it's mainly because of the emotional through line between George Lazenby and Diana Rigg, who, for my money, is the best Bond girl. You know, Tracy Bond, Diana Rigg, she is the best Bond girl. She is, you firmly believe, unlike later Craig films, that he would actually really fall in love for this girl, and you really do believe that he would marry her. And so you totally buy it. You're invested. You are completely invested in this through line, and that, combined with the action sequences and the stunning locations, the best music score of the entire series with John Barry. Do you know what? This is classic Bond. I don't know what I'm doing here. This is classic Bond. Yeah, this is classic. It's there's more in there than You Only Live Twice. It's classic. I've just replaying all the stuff in my mind from like the music score and everything like that, and the ending, which has me tearing up every single time I watch this film. The ending hits hard. Unlike another film, another more recent film that I'll talk about later on, this ending really hits me hard, and it is superbly handled, and it's Lazenby's best piece of acting in the entire film, and I can't see any other actor doing that as well as he did. And I know that's going to be controversial because some people say, what are you talking about? If Craig did it, it'd be amazing. Or if Dalton did it, it'd be brilliant. Or if any other, actual actor did it, it'd be brilliant. But I honestly think Lazenby in that particular scene is flawless. Absolutely flawless. Which is great because that is the most important scene in the film. And that, combined with everything else, it's a classic. It's an absolute classic. My first one on the bad Bond list. Diamonds Are Forever. Now, Diamonds Are Forever. Obviously, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, George Lazenby decided to leave after that one. God knows why. His agent talked him out of it, I think, said, Bond's not going to last. Ooh, that was the worst advice of all time. So what happened was the powers that be said, well, we've got to keep the franchise going. They're in a bit of a panic. What do? Oh, let's just pay Sean Connery a ton of money, because Connery's not interested in playing Bond again. But if we pay him enough money, he'll be interested. So they basically bribed Connery back with an obscene amount of money. And you can tell, because the special effects in this film, Diamonds Are Forever, are awful. So they obviously spent their whole special effects budget on getting Connery back, because they thought Connery was the special effect. And this film, for me, I've always thought, it's actually the campest James Bond film. I know people are going to say, oh, Moonraker's insane and all that. This is the campest James Bond film. Diamonds Are Forever is the campest one, which is really odd, because it comes on the heels of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is one of the most serious ones, and that works fine. But this one, it goes too much. It's too out there. It's too out there, even for me, and I love Roger Moore films, but even for me, I think this film goes way out there. It's just, the whole Vegas thing feels a bit weird, it feels a bit off. Connery looks invested, but he's kind of just joking around. There's no seriousness to it whatsoever, and that is a problem. Like, even though Moore is kind of light-hearted throughout his portrayal, and more light-hearted, at least there's serious moments where you actually believe, Jesus Christ, this guy is actually an assassin and he can kill people. Connery, Connery, I never get the sense from this film that Connery's an assassin. I get the feeling that he's just having a bit of fun, wandering around Vegas, having a blast, not really arsed, and that is a problem. I really think that's a problem. You combine that with Charles Gray, who is not a good Blofeld, who's like the campest Blofeld you're going to see in your life. Action sequences that are not the best, and it becomes a poor film. I don't think this film is a good film. Just gotta say. The next one, however, is way up there. I mean, Live and Let Die, I think's top tier. And I may get hammered for that, putting it above From Russia With Love and Your Own Lives. I think Live and Let Die is top tier. What a leap up, what a contrast. They really were going through they were really yo-yoing in quality, I think, at this time. But Live and Let Die tones the campiness right down, becomes really grounded, actually, because it's almost blaxploitation meets James Bond. And boy, does it really hits the mark. I think it's absolutely superb. I think Roger Moore, out of the gate, brilliant. I think he really is good in this. He's really solid. For his first outing as James Bond, he hits the mark. He's obviously playing it lighter than Sean Connery, but you get the charm. With Roger, you get the charm. You want to be his mate. I want to be Bond's. I want to help Roger Moore out. If Roger Moore asked for help, I'd help him because he's just charming as. He seems like he'd be a really good laugh to be round with Roger Moore's Bond. But at the same time, you get the sense that this guy's a killer. He's a serious guy. He's seriously doing this mission. You have Jane Seymour Solitaire, who is one of the most beautiful Bond girls in the entire series. She's lovely. Yaphet Kotto is a fantastic... He's, as Dr. Kananga, is a superb villain. He is superb. He really is great in this film. Best non-John Barry music... Do you know what? Forget it. Best score... One of the best soundtracks of the entire series. And for my money, top three Bond themes of the entire series with Paul McCartney and Wings. Classic song. The action sequences are superb and they're really inventive. You get a double-decker bus chase, you get the speedboat chase, you get the crocodile stunt, leaping over the back of crocodiles, which was done for real. I mean, it's brilliant little moments like that. The voodoo storyline, in the wrong hands, could have been seen as really stupid. But you actually get the sense that you don't really know if it's real or not in this film. It's kind of left to the viewer to decide, do you believe in this stuff or is it just coincidence? Is it completely... it's kind of like... It gives it a weird tone of almost like fantasy but not. And that actually helps the film. That ambiguousness, is it ambiguousness? I don't know. That uncertainty you have as a viewer on, is this real, is it not? You can kind of see it both ways, and both ways work. Gives the film a really interesting tone and makes it memorable. Once you've seen Live and Let Die, you don't forget Live and Let Die. It is locked in your head. You don't forget. Even up to the very end, which has one of my favourite endings, which is Baron Samedi, the man who cannot die, who Bond has clearly killed earlier in the film, front of the train, cackling to the camera. It makes absolutely no sense as an ending, but Christ, it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. So yeah, Live and Let Die, classic Bond. It's got to be up there. Man with a Golden Gun. I think Man with a Golden Gun is decent. I think it's slightly better than Thunderball, but not. It suffers because of the direction. Moore has obviously been told, or was obviously told in Man with the Golden Gun, Roger, you've got to play this serious, Rog. You've really got to go serious with this. Go hard. You really go serious with this because we're going to make a serious film. Roger Moore plays it really. He goes hard. He really, he plays him as really serious, plays Bond as really serious, but there's no charm at all. Like, it's an odd one because it's almost like they actually somehow make the most likeable James Bond unlikable in this film, and I don't know how they do that. Like, the direction is off. He is clearly almost too mission focused and orientated to the point at which no one else matters. Absolutely no one else matters in this. You have Maud Adams' character, Andrea, treated horribly, actually, by not only Scaramanga, but by Bond as well, really. And this is quite a fragile character, girl in this, and she's treated not very well by Bond. You have Mary Goodnight, who is not the best spy, but she's not treated very well by Bond either. And you kind of think, Jesus, Roger. I mean, but I don't think it's Roger's fault. He was given a script and he was told to play it that way. And you've got to trust your director with this. I mean, this was the same director who did Live and Let Die and Goldfinger, for God's sake. So he clearly knows what he's doing. But with this material, I don't think Guy Hamilton had the best idea of how to tackle it. the trouble is, all that stuff weighs the film down and stops the great moments from really pushing it up to good or great overall. You have the flip car jump, the astro spiral stunt, which, for my money, is the greatest car stunt in the history of motion pictures. And that's brilliant. That's overshadowed, one, because, John Barry kind of dropped the ball a bit with the slide whistle woo sound effects. Like, what, John? What were you thinking? I kind of laugh about that now. I've got so used to watching it with that, I kind of tune out. Or if I'm in the right mood, I'll have a little laugh at it. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't detract from the amazingness of the stunt. But I can see for some people it really does. And then you have Christopher Lee, who is superb. But by far the highlight of the entire film. And he's barely in the film. And when he is in the film, you've paired him up with more, which is fine, but you've landed yourself in a situation where the villain is actually more likeable than the hero, and you're almost rooting for Christopher Lee, which you should never be doing. You should never be rooting for the villain in a Bond film, but you actually are in this one, and that's a big problem. So it's not as slow-paced as Thunderball, and that's probably, and it has more exotic locations and better stunts, and is slightly more memorable. But I can't say it's anything other than just half decent. Next one, however, is top tier, or it's probably second favourite. Spy Who Loved Me is a masterclass. It's just a masterclass in how to do an epic action film. It's Roger's Bond. One of the best Roger Bond films. I think that's the general consensus amongst most of the public, that it's one of his very best. And you can see why. I mean, it's just, the formula is well oiled. They clearly knew that I think Cubby Broccoli clearly knew that they dropped the ball a little bit with Man with the Golden Gun. So basically he said, right, I'm just going to go all out and make the best film I can possibly make. I'm going to throw all the money at it, all the effects, all the sets, all the stunts, gadgetry, the lot. I'm just going to throw everything at the wall and hope that it sticks. And by God, does it stick, because it's absolutely brilliant film. You know within the first 5 minutes that you're going to be watching a great film, because you have the best stunt in the whole series, for me. The single best stunt in the whole series, which makes it one of the best movie stunts of all time, I think, for me, which is the ski jump off Mount Asgard, which is captured in one shot, straight off the edge of the cliff. Skis off, parachute opens, Union Jack, da-da-da-da-da-da. I mean, what more? And then straight into Nobody Does It Better. You can't ask for a better intro than that. And then the film just carries on that level basically throughout. It's just like, yeah, we'll give you a Lotus Esprit that can go underwater and can be a submarine, and we'll give you a steel-toothed henchman who's one of the best characters in the whole series. We'll give you him. We'll give you one of the best Bond girls of the series in Triple X, someone who's actually Bond's equal, Russian equal. We'll create the best set, one of the best sets of the series, with the tanker, Lepirus tanker, the inside of the tanker with 3 nuclear submarines, and then we're going to have like an all-out war in there between the goodies and the baddies, just blowing it all to shit for 10 minutes, and you're going to love every second of this, and you're watching this go, yeah, just bring it, just keep on bringing it, because the goods are keeping on coming. Oh, it's a blast. It's an absolute blast, and yeah, I just adore it. Absolutely adore it. Spy Who Loved Me, way up there. Now, some people may be shocked about this. I think Moonraker's great. I think I'm putting it near From Russia With Love, and if I get hammered for that, then tough. Moonraker is basically a remake of The Spy Who Loved Me, but in space. Simplest way I can put it. They go slightly a bit too silly, but if you're in the mood for pure cheese with a Bond film, pure laughs and just having a right good fun time, you can't really top Moonraker for that, because Moonraker is... It's just it's honestly, it is... They don't go any more epic than this. They don't go any more epic than Bond in space. And actually, the space stuff is handled really well, actually. It's handled pretty realistic. Some of the later films, I'll have a question, I'll question the realism of some of the later entries, but in this one, it's actually surprisingly, you look at it and go, do you know what, yeah, it seems tangible. Like, that could actually happen. Like, obviously the Moonraker lasers, you're like, maybe not. But I think Moonraker is absolutely top. I think it's great. I think Roger Moore is clearly well settled in the role. It's like, Spy Love Me, I'm just going to continue on that line, which is exactly what he needed to do, so his performance is great. The villain, Hugo Drax, is a tremendous amount of fun. He barely speaks, but when he does, it's fantastic. And the action goes all over the place, and I mean all over the place. It goes from country to country to country. You have the pre-credit sequence, which is up there with one of the best in the series, where he gets pushed out of a plane without a parachute, and he has to catch up to the guy below him to steal his parachute and all that. That is magnificent. That was done for real, and you're watching it and like, wow, that is sublime stunt work. It's just a great time. I can't put it as classic Bond because it is. There are some silly moments in it that you look at and you go, well, that's just bloody ridiculous. That's not going to happen in a Bond film. And some would argue that it shouldn't be anywhere near a Bond film, some of the ridiculous stuff that happens in here. And I can see that point of view. If you like your Bond film series, you'll probably look at Moonraker and think, what the bloody hell is this? I personally quite like the outrageousness of Bond. I can appreciate the seriousness of films, but I quite like it when they go light-hearted, fun romp, and Moonraker is the epitome of that. For Your Eyes Only is one for me that is slap bang in the middle. It's good. I would put it a bit higher than Dr. No because it has better action in it, and for me, For Your Eyes Only, when I think of For Your Eyes Only, for me, it is skiing down a bobsleigh run with a motorcycle coming after you, all in one shot down a bobsleigh run. That's for me what I picture with For Your Eyes Only. Of that sequence, which is sensational stunt work. Skiing down the bob run's one thing. Having a full-on motorcycle chase you behind on a bobsleigh run is incredible. It's just remarkable. So for me, that's the standout sequence. But for me, it's the action sequences that are memorable in this. I think Roger's alright. I think the girl's alright. Everything else is alright, apart from the action sequences, which are brilliant. So that overall levels it out into good. You have the car chase in the Citroen 2CV. You have the whole mountain climbing thing, which is really tense. Really tense. Like, you are literally on your edge of your seat. I'd say it's like the 80s version of the Burj Khalifa stunt in Mission Impossible 4. That Tom Cruise hanging outside the hotel. This is the 80s version of that. So it's really intense, and for me, yeah, it's those action sequences that put it high. Okay, everyone, this is going to be a guilty pleasure. This is guilty pleasure time. Octopussy for me is top tier. I'm going to put it ahead of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and I'm going to get hammered for that. I know I'm going to get hammered for that. But I love Octopussy. I've always loved Octopussy. For me, this one film is by some margin, the most underrated film in the entire James Bond series. If you've not watched it recently, please rewatch Octopussy, especially in this day and age with Russia kicking off. It's actually quite topical to watch Octopussy because it's like, shit, that's almost like General Orlov is Putin. Like, I'm not making any joke about this. General Orlov in this film is Putin, right? So if you go into it with that mindset, suddenly Octopussy becomes very, very relevant. but I think Roger is for Roger. This is him. This should have been Roger's last Bond film. He would have gone out on a serious high here because his performance is flawless. His performance is really good. I think it's better here than in For Your Eyes Only. I think the action sequence is superb. Best pre-title, one of the best pre-title sequences with the Astro Star jet. That is brilliant. I think All Time High is an underrated Bond song. The whole finale with the going to defuse the bomb and him having to go on the train. He gets kicked off the train and then he has to hitchhike his way and across Germany to track down this bomb and get in there and defuse it with seconds left. That is intense. That is high stakes. It mixes humour when it needs to mix humour, but when it's deadly serious, there are no jokes. It is, you really feel on edge, and it's the weirdest thing that the sign of a good film for me is one that can make you disengage your brain from having seen it before. So you are still feeling tense about a situation, even though you've seen the film many times and you know how it ends. In that moment, the film makes you forget that you know how it ends and you're still invested and you're still engaged. That's the sign of a great film. And Octopussy does that because I get tensed up every single time thinking that bomb is going to go off. Tuk Tuk Chase. VJ is a brilliant ally. Kamal Khan, fantastic villain, and has my favourite line of the entire series, which is, "You have a nasty habit of surviving," which is just genius, because that's a line that you could say to any action hero ever and it still work, but it's for Bond it works particularly well. It wouldn't work by today's, because of No Time to Die, obviously that wouldn't land today, that line, and that the line is kind of a bit ruined because of because of No Time to Die, but I love it regardless. I think it is just beautifully shot. Locations are brilliant. It always baffles me beyond belief when I see this film ranked low in people's rankings, but that's the beauty of subjective opinion. A View to Kill. Now, many people will probably want me to put that there. It's not going to go there. I actually think it's good. I actually think A View to a Kill is good. It's better than Man with the Golden Gun. It's not as good as some of the other films. It's obviously the best part in it is Christopher Walken as Max Zorin, who is absolutely superb. Just completely unhinged. For me, he plays one of the very first true psychotics in the Bond films. Like, you look at Christopher Walken in this film and you go, you can't reason with this guy. You can't reason with him at all. So for me, yeah, Christopher Walken is the best highlight of this film. There's some good action sequences in it. The sad and the John Barry score is one of his best, actually, and the Duran Duran song is an absolute favourite of mine. The unfortunate thing is that Roger Moore, whilst he plays the part really well, he's just too old. And even by Rogers admitted that he was way too old to be playing James Bond in this. I don't blame Roger for taking it on. I blame Kubrick for saying, come back. Clearly he looks too old to be playing James Bond. And you have to, the way to enjoy this film is to very, very quickly get used to the fact that James Bond looks a particular way in this film. Because if you can't look beyond Moore's age in this film, you are not going to enjoy the film. So it's very much dependent on mood on whether I can do that. But if I'm in the right mood to just go with it, I actually think it's a good Bond film, and not half as bad as people say it is. Oh, the Dalton films. Now, for me, over the years, these have, especially the second Dalton film, has been the biggest re-evaluation I've had during my lifetime of watching Bond films. Like, I've re-evaluated these films massively. Because when I was young, I always loved the Moore ones. because they were more light-hearted, and the more serious ones I didn't really get into. But as I've gotten older, I came to appreciate more the serious elements of Bond. And for me, no one does the serious moments better than Timothy Dalton as Bond. And I think Living Daylights is classic. I think it's classic Bond. I know I'm putting a lot of these as top tier, but I genuinely think Living Daylights is right up there. I think for me, Dalton brings a seriousness edge from the get-go. I think there's just the right tone here between serious and you're having the gadgetry and some of the lighter elements like the romance, but it works really well played off Dalton's serious portrayal. They get the tone absolutely dead right, where it's serious when it needs to be serious, but it has a couple of light moments along the way. I think the locations are superb. When you go to Azerbaijan, you can feel the desert sand. It's so wonderfully shot and so well done. You really feel like you're there. You're thrown right in the mix. Some of the stunt work is great. The whole fight off the back of the Hercules aircraft is just remarkable. I don't know how on earth they did that. And you got the Aston Martin with the snow, which is just brilliant. I've got a few optional extras installed. Lines like that, which only Dalton can do, which is like oozing badassness, if that is a word. But it's just like, wow, yes, give me more of that, Dalton. Give me more of that. And I love the fact that in this film he actually has a one-girl relationship throughout it. I actually really like that. I really like that you genuinely feel that he kind of falls for this girl. I think that's really sweet and lovely. And it's I mean, some people say the villains are a bit dodgy, and they kind of are, but I can forgive that because everything else in it is brilliant. So yeah, for me, classic. Now, when I was young, this would have gone there. License to Kill. Now that I'm older, it's going to go there. It is a great Bond film. License to Kill, considering the production problems they had where they had their budget absolutely slashed to pieces, they had to shoot the whole film in Mexico just to save money, and the fact that they even managed to get a film made during a writer's strike is absolutely remarkable. The fact that they did all that and it still turned out the way it did, like as good as it did, is a tribute to the filmmakers and to Timothy Dalton in this film, this was obviously the one where they said, do you know what, Timothy Dalton's a serious Bond actor. Let's give him the most serious, dour, brutal, gory, dark film we can, and let's just throw him right in it and see how he does. And to be fair to Timothy Dalton, obviously being a Shakespearean actor, he's going to rise to the occasion and deliver a dark, brooding performance, which he nails. He nails it in this film. He's brilliant in this film. He keeps you hooked and engaged all the way through, even though for some people it may be a bit gory, and for a long time for me it was a very gory film. I couldn't watch parts of it, like the full-on head explosion in the decompression chamber. I was thinking, Jesus Christ, that's too much for me. But now I've kind of got used to it, but early days now, I wouldn't recommend kids watch this one. Kids, watch Goldfinger. Give this one a miss, right? Don't watch this one until you are old enough to watch it. It's got a 15 rating for a reason, right? But you've got the serious Dalton performance. You've got Q in there having one of the biggest. Desmond Llewellyn having one of his largest roles in the series, and he's superb because he brings some much needed comic relief in a film that has very little comic relief. You've got Robert Davi, who is a fascinating villain. Like, you can't take your eyes off Robert Davi in this film. He is really good, and he feels like an average guy. Like, he could be a real world villain. He doesn't feel comic book at all. He feels like you plucked a drug dealer off the street, and just said, give him loads of power and just said, right, you've got a whole empire to run. You know, it feels very real world. You know, the whole film feels really grounded and gritty. But it's what makes it great. Is you really believe all this stuff could happen. You're not in Moonraker territory. Moonraker's great, but for another reason. But this isn't Moonraker. This is as far from Moonraker as you can possibly get. And in its own way, it's also great. Also, tanker truck chase at the end, the best vehicle chase sequence in the whole of Bond. It's absolutely incredible. Stunt work's amazing. It's just brilliant. That sequence alone would put it at good if it had nothing else in the film. But the fact that it has all the other dramatic moments and grit and hardcore, just basically pure badass Bond. This is badass Bond, and that's why it goes as great. Now this is pure nostalgia for me, because this is the first James Bond film I ever saw, GoldenEye, and I think it's good. Actually, no, I think it's great. I can't say it's just good. I think it's great. I would probably prefer some of these others above it, but GoldenEye is great. It's Pierce Brosnan is superb in it. He does really well out the gate. Might be. No. I think some of his Bond performances are. I think the one after this has a better Bond performance from him, but I think he does really well for his first outing. Sean Bean is a superb villain. He is a superb villain. One of the best in the series, actually. That's what this film has going for it. The villains are all superb. Xenu on the top, Urumov, Boris. I am invincible. You know honestly, they're all great. For me, it takes a long while to get going. So one problem I have with this film is that it only starts becoming brilliant about halfway through. It has the pre-credits is superb, but then there is about at least 45 minutes of setup that they could have breezed through, and it would have made this film a lot better. Because literally, second half of this film, you're at peak level Bond. Second half of this film is classic Bond. The rest of it is good. So it kind of levels it up in being great. One moment that is classic Bond, tank chase. Anyone who's seen GoldenEye knows that is the standout scene that everyone remembers. The tank chase is absolutely superb. Watching that as an 8-year-old kid, first time seeing anything Bond related, parents said, "Do you want to come watch this film? You might quite enjoy it." The second that tank blew through the wall when it was like, dun, 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 I was hooked for life. Simple as that. And now we move on to my favourite Brosnan film. And this, for me, I get shafted for this as well. I think this is classic Bond. I think Tomorrow Never Dies is underrated. I think it's great. I love every second of Tomorrow Never Dies. I can watch it if ever I need just a solid standard Bond film that I know is guaranteed to give me a good time. Tomorrow Never Dies is it. And I think this is Pierce Brosnan's best performance as Bond. He is completely comfortable, completely at ease, but he can play the serious when he needs to be serious. I think Elliot Carver's a very good, very different type of villain. He's clearly not a physical match for Bond, but clearly a mental match for him in terms of he is just psychotic, but he has the world at his control because he controls the media, so he has all the power. He holds all the cards, effectively, and that is a big problem for Bond. So it's a great villain. Wei Lin is fantastic. Michelle Yeoh is superb. The action sequences here, you're not going to get many better action sequences than the remote control car in the car park. That is one of the best car chases in Bond. It's the Bond formula done in the 90s, as well as they did it in the 60s with Goldfinger. For me, this is Brosnan's Goldfinger. This is him Arguably, it is most formulaic, but that formula is firing on all cylinders, and that's why it's classic Bond for me. I can't say the same for The World Is Not Enough. The World Is Not Enough, I think, is good. I'm going to put it as good. I think Sophie Marceau is probably the best thing in The World Is Not Enough, because she's the most interesting, one of the most interesting Bond villains we've ever had as Electra King. She is absolutely great in it. I think Brosnan is still good in this film, and a couple of the action sequences are stellar. Without doubt, the standout being the pre-title sequence. In fact, the pre-title sequence is the best one in the Brosnan films, I think. I think it's the best pre-title sequence in the Brosnan era, is The World Is Not Enough. But the rest of the film doesn't really match those levels that it achieves in the pre-title sequence. You have Robert Carlyle, who's a bit wasted, sadly. I mean, he's a great actor, but he is wasted in this role. And then you have Denise Richards, who is a bit unfortunate, really. I'm trying to think if I enjoy A View to a Kill more than World Is Not Enough, and I probably do, you know. Actually, I might actually do that. Oh, God. In fact, I might do that. Wow. I didn't think I'd do that, but I probably would, actually. Yeah, I probably put Dr. No ahead of World Is Not Enough. But yeah, it just gets a bit... It gets there are individual scenes which are great, but overall the quality isn't there, and it's slow. It does take its time, and it goes on a bit too long. And I must admit, once Electra King is killed, I should be pumped up for the ending, trying to disarm a nuclear reactor on a submarine, but I'm not invested. I lose interest. I actually lose interest at that point. When Electra King's dead, I'm checked out, because I don't really care about Renard. I should care about Renard, but I'm not bothered, because his character's so underwhelming. And that's a real shame. So yeah, World's Not Enough is good. It's good. Oh, this is a sack of shite. sorry. Did I, put my cards on the table a bit too quick there? Die Another Day is just god awful. The sad thing about Die Another Day was it was my 12th birthday. It was the first Bond film I watched in the cinema, so I was really hyped up for this. And I remember even then, when I was completely I talked about nothing else other than Bond, I even came out then and said, no, I think the other films do it better. I really was not too in awe of Die Another Day, and on repeat watches, it's still ridiculous. It's outrageous, stupid. The CGI is crap. The invisible car is just insulting to people. It's just insulting people's intelligence that you can actually believe that exists. It makes no sense whatsoever. Even Moonraker is outrageous, but at least there's some realism to it. At least you look at it and go, yeah, that's actually tangibly possible. You look at Die Another Day and go, nope, never in a million years. But you do that quite a lot throughout it. And gene therapy, changing your face from a Korean to an Englishman, makes no goddamn sense. I mean, it's just, where do I start? Brosnan is decent in it, but he's given absolute rubbish to work with, as is Halle Berry. Rosamund Pike's in this, and I love Rosamund Pike as an actress. I think she's brilliant, but she's given awful material here. And then you've got action sequences that aren't really very good. The direction's all over the place. They're using slow-mo when you don't even need slow-mo. It's just a bad film. It's just a bad film. If you're in the mood for laughing at it because it's so bad it's good, then go for it. But it is a bad film. Die Another Day is a bad film. I can't say any more than that. It's just, it's worse than Diamonds Are Forever. It is the worst. It's one of the worst by some distance. Okay. Interesting one here, Craig era. Right off the bat, Daniel Craig is actually my least favourite James Bond. I might get hammered for that, but he's my least favourite James Bond. He always has been. I've never really warmed to him. I've watched him in 5 films now, all at the cinema, because they've all come out during my lifetime, and yeah, he's never warmed to me. That being said, some of his films are good. Casino Royale, I'm going to put as the top of good. Oh, I'm going to get hammered for that, aren't I? But Casino Royale, I think, clearly after Die Another Day, they wanted to do a course correction. I don't necessarily think that was a terrible thing, but the fact that they did a complete reboot and introduced the origins of Bond, okay, yeah, go for it. For the most part, Casino Royale does that well. The action sequences are very good. Parkour chase, brilliant. Miami airport scene, superb. But for me, the best scenes in this film are actually when they're actually doing the poker game at the casino, because that's where you really see Craig. Actually, it's Craig at his very best. Actually, I don't like Daniel Craig, but when he's actually playing Bond like Bond, and he's not trying to be some brainless thug as he is most of the time when he's in the James Bond role, those moments where he actually does display a little bit of class, like the poker sequence, I'm all for it. I wish he does more of that. I wish he did more of that throughout his films, but he doesn't. Those scenes are the best in it. And really, after Le Chiffre dies and they end up in Venice, for me it's too long. By that point it's gone. It's too long. If you're going to kill Vesper off, do it in the next film. You've outstayed your welcome. By the time they go to Venice, as far as I'm concerned, they've outstayed the welcome. And that's odd, me saying that, considering, they've done other long James Bond films. But it feels long, this one. But unlike the other Bond films, and we may get to No Time to Die, which is a longer film, but it doesn't feel as long. This feels long. Casino Royale feels long. Or the Majesty's Secret Service didn't feel long, but this does. And by the time it gets to Venice, I'm checked out. And that's where the whole emotional part of Eva Green, which is the highlight of this film. Eva Green is the highlight of this film. But that whole emotional thread ties up in the last act. And at that point, I've checked out. So I'm not getting the full impact of it. And it's only, if they tightened it up, I would have made it a bit better. But yeah, I'm putting it as good. Oh, Quantum of Solace. Now, God. You see, this is... Yeah, it's bad. It's just a bad film. The plot is rubbish. I mean, there isn't really a plot. But there isn't a plot. The villain scheme is just... The villain is the weakest of the franchise. It's just... There's nothing to this film. I know they had a writer strike on, but they had to follow up Casino Royale, which was well regarded in the mainstream, and they follow it up with that, where it's just all the action sequences are the worst in the whole franchise. They're quick cutting everything. They tried to make it like Jason Bourne. I see this film as like Jason Bourne 4. Like they were just doing their own. They were doing James Bourne, basically, and they don't do it well. It's completely. They clearly had no idea what they were doing, making it. I think Daniel Craig was actually writing the script as they were going along, so they clearly struggled there. But they clearly didn't have a good story to go with, and they just went with it anyway. Yeah, it's a bad film. I think Quantum of Solace is a bad film. There's only one good scene in Quantum of Solace, and that's when he's doing snooping around at the opera, and that's mainly due to David Arnold's score in that scene, which is fantastic, and the way that sequence is directed. And you wish the whole film was like that, but it's just one scene, and yeah, that's all I can say about that. Skyfall is good, and I'm going to put it above Casino Royale. I enjoy Skyfall. I think for me, Skyfall is actually probably my favourite Craig film. it doesn't have the best of Craig in, because I actually think No Time to Die has the best Craig moments in it. But as an overall package, Skyfall is the best Craig film, in my opinion. Judi Dench is superb in this film. She steals the film. And then Javier Bardem comes pretty damn close to stealing it off her with his performance as Silver, because he is the creepiest Bond villain that we've had in the series for some time. The whole end at Bond's house with his bodyguard there, Kincaid. Oh God, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. The cinematography is the best, one of the best of the series. Roger Deakins is fantastic. It's a very well put together, solid action film, and it does well. What I would have liked is at the end of this film, you get the scene where there's Moneypenny and there's M in the old office. At that point, if Craig had left at that point, I would have gone, hats off to you, sir, and we can just carry on as the status quo. You've re-established Bond, now we can go forward, we don't need anything else to happen. But then he made the next two films. So Skyfall ended perfectly. Skyfall's ending was spot on. And then came this sack of shite. So Spectre is actually worse than Quantum of Solace, and I think it's very close to being worse than Die Another Day. And I'm just saying that because they do so many awful decisions in this film that I can't even begin to go through the bad decisions they make in this film. The worst decision they make in this film is the inexplicable thing to make Bond and Blofeld stepbrothers, which is just stupid. Because basically, what you've basically done in one single creative decision, you've done three things. One, you've shat on Ian Fleming and his legacy, because he never had that happen at all, right? Two, you've made Bond look like an idiot. An absolute idiot, because if he can't tell that all the things that have happened to him over the last few years are because of his stepbrother, you've made him look like an idiot. You've just made Bond look like the worst spy in the world. You've made his detective skills a joke, because it's like, oh, so he didn't even suspect that his brother might be involved or something. Oh, what on what level has he not even registered that might be a possibility? Anyway. And then finally, worst thing of all is, you've put this massive coincidence together. It's like, the coincidences are just off the scale here. It's like, so, you're basically saying that if James Bond was a librarian, I'm stealing this off a podcast because someone else put it absolutely superbly, and I'm just going to steal it. They said if James Bond was a librarian, does that mean that Blofeld would have gone round rearranging all the books in the wrong order just to piss James Bond off, just to cause him some aggro and pain? Is that what you're saying? Because what you're effectively saying is this madman is only ever doing this stuff because James Bond is a secret agent. That's the only reason he's doing this stuff, is just to piss James Bond off. So that's his only motivation. Blofeld's only motivation is to piss James Bond off. That's all, and that's just ridiculous, because what that means is, so it's all Bond's fault, is it? So if Bond wasn't a secret agent, none of this shit would have happened, because Blofeld wouldn't have felt the need to. It's only because, and not only that, isn't it a massive coincidence that Bond happens to be a secret agent and have the ability to fight this man? Like, and his stepbrother happens to be the head of this evil organisation. Isn't that a massive coincidence? Just an absolute joke. That alone makes it shit, but also it's a bit boring. The action sequences aren't exciting. They have a great henchman in Hinks, and they just bin him off. Honestly, yeah. Sorry, and don't even get me started on Madeline Swan and the fact that they have no chemistry whatsoever. And the only Bond girl since Eva Green with whom Craig has had chemistry, Monica Bellucci, they just bin her off after 5 minutes as well. Yeah, no, pisses me off. Sorry, a little bit of a rant there, but yeah, Spectre, nah, not a fan of that. And then we come to the most recent one, No Time to Die. Okay. I think No Time to Die is slap bang in the middle of good. And I'm going to say this right now. If this film had a different ending, I'm not going to spoil it. If this film had a different ending and was a standalone Bond adventure and didn't have Swan back and all that entails, there are moments in this film and the overall setup and the way Craig plays Bond in this film will be right up here. Unfortunately, they don't do that. So I have to just focus on the individual moments of greatness in there, which are the action sequences, which are absolutely the best of Craig's era. The Cuba sequence, which is the best scene in any Craig film and one of the best scenes in any James Bond film. Mainly because of Craig's performance, but also because Ana de Armas is just incredible. I mean, in this film, she is incredible. You want her for the entire film. I wanted them to sack Madeline Swan off completely and forget that she even existed and just have a whole film where it was Ana de Armas and James Bond fighting the bad guys for 2 hours. Because, I tell you what, that would have been a hell of a lot more entertaining and a lot more engaging and fun to watch. But instead, she gets 5 minutes. They're the best 5 minutes of the film, but then she's gone. And then you get a whole different set of, characters coming back from Spectre that you have to show a bit more investment in this time. And quite simply, I wasn't invested in the first place because of the shit show that was Spectre, so why should I be invested now? And that is the problem I have with No Time to Die. I will say hats off to Lisa Doo because she actually made her character a bit more bearable to watch in this film than in Spectre, but it's not. The damage was done as far as I'm concerned, and that means that the ending, aside from the action sequence in the stairwell, which is stunning, which is Craig at his best in terms of Bond action mode. Apart from that, the ending falls way flat, and I hate the ending. I'm just gonna say it. I hate the ending. I think they didn't need to do what they chose to do, and they didn't need to go there. But there's a lot of other good moments in there that mean it's slap bang in the middle. So everyone, that is my list. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves listening to me ramble on or passionately defend or applaud certain films within this franchise. What I would like is if you like the video, great. If you could leave a comment in below, brilliant. What's your favourite Bond film? What's your least favourite Bond film? Let me know, and until next time, see you later. Take care.